Welcome to Great Talk and Entertainment. I'm your host, KJ, and this is the podcast where we review movies and TV shows from all your favorite superheroes, including Marvel Comics and DC Comics and much more. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Great Talk and Entertainment official channel. Now let's go, baby! Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. And now, this is going to be my whole spoiler review for the new Disney Plus series, Ahsoka Season 1, and I'm reviewing Episode 1 and 2, and of course, this is a spoiler review. From here on out, I will be only doing spoiler reviews through all Season 1 of this series on the Disney Plus, Ahsoka. And so you had not seen this show, please pause this, go watch it, but before you watch it, hit that thumbs up button, share this, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you can always be updated with all my latest contacts and much more in the future. So do that, let your friends and family know, let people who you know who just want to hear a good podcast on YouTube, tell them about Great Talking Entertainment official channel. Now, with all that being said, again, this is a spoiler about Episode 1 and 2. So, you've been warned. Let's get into it. In Episode 1, we get introduced to many new characters and many new Star Wars droids that you may not heard of. And in this season, they will unveil where they all came from and how they were. And we get Ahsoka on a deserted planet in a temple where the Daphne of the witches, which are like the sisters of the witch. They're witches, literally witches, in the Star Wars universe. And we see her move these items like you would do in a video game like Tomb Raider, Legend of Zelda games, or Uncharted games. And she finally figures out and gets a key which has a map that could lead to Thrawn and Ezra from the Star Wars Rebels, which is a cartoon series back in the day, and it's on the Disney Plus. So if you really want to understand a much quicker way, I would watch Rebels and then continue watching this series. But just seeing that series and watching each episode, you'll understand more about these characters like Ahsoka and many more that what I'll dive into. So with these, this is a very important character, and this is honestly just an important series, which really defines what Star Wars universe is, which is it's nuts, and it's really exciting to see this character get into it, because we also, like I was saying in this episode, that she found this map, and then as she was getting out of the temple, she gets ambushed by these droid assassins who, they don't hold lightsabers, but they do duel like them, and we get an epic like dual lightsaber battle where it's like 5, 6, 8 to 10, right? 5-on-1 type thing, and she has 2 lightsabers, and they're both, a plain color, like a clear, which that's because her crystal is not chosen. She's not a Jedi. She's not a Sith Lord. She's kind of like the anti-hero or the anti-Jedi. And for most of you who don't know this and never watched this or watched like Star Wars, the Clone Wars series or Rebels, she was a Anakin Skywalker, aka Darth Vader's Padme or Padawan. Sorry, Padme or Padawan, and basically he was the teacher and she was the student, and he was gonna train her to become a Jedi, but obviously Anakin chose to go to the dark side, which he becomes Darth Vader, right? And to only really truly understand her history throughout the years before this show, before she even got her own series, you had to watch the Clone Wars cartoon in Rebels. Maybe read some books, some novelties, and comic books to truly understand there. And maybe she was in some of the past older Star Wars video games. I'm not sure. I never really played those in my childhood, believe it or not. But she battles. She uses her lightsaber just like Anakin, and her skill sets and ways to counteract, battles is really amazing. It reminds you of Anakin, aka Darth Vader. So after that, all the droids start detonating themselves because they all have a bomb built in. And now she's running because it's going to be a big explosion. But luckily, her droid, Hang, who is her loyal droid who protects her, but he was once like a robot who was on the dark side. So he was already programmed to destroy and kill Jedis and anybody who's on the good side, basically. But just stuff like that in the New Republican era, a lot of these droids who were built to literally, serve Darth Vader are prepared, redesigned, reused, and reprogrammed, but they could not, for some odd reason, they can never get those type of droids to stay good. There's still some parts within inside of them that still triggers them to do evil stuff. So and they never really explain why. I mean, they have kind of explained, but not really. They explain this in The Mandalorian, to the book of Boba Fett and Andor, but it's still, the question is, why are all these droids who are still have parts that can activate them to do evil and go back to do what they're originally programmed to do is still kind of questioned. Like, obviously there's somebody in there that's messing it up, and maybe this is the series that we see this. But Hang saves her, and he's pretty much like a witty droid that's very knowledgeable, understands in a way. He's one of those droids that kind of understands like how human emotional is, and he kind of just sees, he can sit back and say, okay, this person's right, this person's wrong, as far as conversation goes. And you see, like, he gives great advice and encourages most of the characters to do the right thing with the right choice, because he's very calculated. And that's just from his like I say, his previous programming. That's why he's kind of like that. But obviously they still use him, and it's nuts. But he's one of my favorite characters in the Star Wars series as far as droids. Like, he's one of my favorite ones just throughout the years. We see Ahsoka try to figure out how to open up this key, which is a map that can lead her to possibility Thrawn and Ezra. And these are two characters from the Star Wars Rebels, and I want to say it's from the Star Wars Legacy books. But it's an important character. Thrawn is a popular Star Wars character within the Star Wars fans. Fun fact, he was Darth Vader's like right-hand man, basically. If Darth Vader's the tribal chief, Thrawn's the wise man, basically. He's the Paul Heyman. But anyway, if you watch it, you'll know what I mean, if you watch wrestling. But she knows that there's only one person that she can think of that could figure it out, and the only person that can be is Sabine, which is, she's from, again, Star Wars Rebels, which I think it's really cool that they're bringing all these Star Wars characters from Rebels, which is, again, this is a cartoon show, and they're bringing them to the first time ever in a live action, so it's really cool. And obviously, Sabine's very smart and witty. She's really close with Ezra. I think she has his cat, which these alien-looking creatures are considered cats, and I forget what the cat's name, so I apologize for that. But she has that. She also stays in a communication base, which is abandoned. At first I thought that maybe that's Ezra's old place, but there's probably multiple abandoned communication buildings. So I'm not going to say that's his actual location, but it does resemble it a lot as the design and the background if you watch the Star Wars Rebels. So I'll just but the place, I'm not going to say that's his place. I think that's just her place. And she kind of stays out. Obviously she's still um not sad, but kind of just trying to move forward from the recent events of the Star Wars Rebel series because Ezra and Thawne were like stuck in these giant whales, basically called Purrgil, and they sent him to a different force or timeline, basically, which I'll explain why I mentioned timeline. So before all that, we get to see two Sith Lords get on this ship that's run by Captain Hyele, which is Hayele. I just cannot pronounce that. He gets killed by Balin's Skull and his Padme Shin Hati, which they went in on this ship to free one of the Witch Knight sisters, Morgan Elsbeth, a member of the Domoran, which is just a group of witches in the Star Wars universe, which is really, really cool. I think they're kind of like in the Star Wars universe. These are like basically witches, basically, and in this Star Wars universe, you would read them as like kids' book, fairy tales, legends, right? So it's nobody in the universe, in the Star Wars universe, some believe in them, some don't, because they never see them. They've been kind of disappeared for about 500 years because the Sith Lord Babylon Skull, he's one of the original Jedi's, like OG, like one of the founders of being a Jedi, and obviously he turned to Sith Lord, and there's a whole story of that, which just basically I hope they do kind of explain that. I know they're not going to explain all that in one episode. I could be wrong, but they'll probably just glazed over it a little bit. But basically, this is like the begin. They started the Jedi way. He's one of the few people who were the first to discover the Force. Like, yes, Yoda was one of them, but so was this guy. And his little sidekick, Shin Hati, she's more skilled. And you know what I like about this character is she's like everything Saban's not good at as far as combat style, which we'll talk more about that later. But it's about Prentice versus Prentice in episode 1 and 2, and that idea. So really great characters to see, and they're really, really, really trying to explore more deeper in the Star Wars universe than I can ever imagine, because Morgan is explaining that this map that they need to get leads to 2 different galaxies. So she wants Shin to head to Lothal and get the key back, which you'll see this epic lightsaber battle between her and Sabrin, and obviously, Sabrin gets stabbed, but luckily survives. But Shin is the better lightsaber dual battler, but it just shows you where they both stand at. And I think, me personally, if I'm just basing off of episode 1 and 2, I bet you, because it's what I think it's gonna happen. I think Shin's gonna come back to the good side, and her and Sabrin's gonna be like really good friends. Or I mean, they can do the complete opposite and just leave them as they are. But I think, which in both episode 1 and 2, Shin kind of questions a lot of what Morgan does or says, and she's not understanding what's going on. And she's also just worried about trying to show that to her master, her teacher, that she's not a pushover. She can complete the mission. That anything she does, it's gonna get completed right. And because we see like there's this two different one, like she cares and Sabin doesn't really care. She's kind of like over it because she lost a lot of good people, including Ezra, who's they're really close, and so she's kind of like she don't care. She's not trying to win Ahsoka's approval or nothing, but they kind of just learn their own ways. So we're gonna see two trainees, rookies, newbies, basically, and two different sides figure out who they are and what they truly are capable of. And are they one's gonna die, one's gonna live, or they both live? That's the only way I can see it. There's only so many ways they can go with this. So I personally think I would like to see them become friends and not die. Like, let's not kill off these characters. But obviously, I could be. I'm usually wrong with this, but I really think personally they should not kill these two characters off. At least I hope. That's what I'm hoping. But then when we get to episode 2, after the battle, Sabin wakes up in the hospital, and Ahsoka just looks disappointed and frustrated with her because in episode 1 she told her, "Hey, do not leave this ship with this key. Like, you can leave the ship, but the key to the map has to stay here." And she broke that rule because obviously she's a rebel, right? But she just was just so frustrated, but she still cares about her. And they had this droid's head that attacked her earlier in episode 1, and they figure out where they're at. And in episode 2 is basically all about the New Republicans and how corrupted it is, and how some of these characters are still loyal to the Empire. I mean, we see General Dula, who we meet in episode 1, and she's been the one kind of encouraging Ahsoka and Sabin to kind of like team up again, kind of like repair their relationship, because Sabin was the Padme or Padawan to Ahsoka, and she was trying to train her, but she kind of gave up. Sabrina just walked away from it, and they had, just a rough patch in their relationship as a friendship, teacher-student type thing. But, there's still that idea of them. But they want to team up again, and they all three work very well, and General Dula just knows that. And that's why they trust what Sabrina did when she hacked the the droid's head and found its location in the New Republican, which we all know it's very corrupted again, like I said. And they needed to go there. And when they went there, they could not get any clearance. They struggled, but a lot of the information, because there's on general, and I didn't understand why we needed to know more about the New Republican, but they're just definitely part of the next Star Wars series. So there's something big going on, and there's somebody who kind of just runs this place behind the scenes, and of course it's a dark Sith Lord. But who is it? Is it Thrawn? Is it Darth Maul? Who knows, right? Who knows? It can be anybody at this point. So we get that, and then we get this epic spaceship battle where we see the droid Chomp put a tracking device on the ship where it has these droids who are low-key still programmed to assassinate, and they're getting shipped off to whatever location. And that's where we see a very popular character to Star Wars fans, Barack, which is an Imperial. This is one of those groups that, if you remember the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, you've seen a couple of them show up. They're the ones who have that lightsaber where the handle can like spin, make the lightsaber spin like a windmill, basically. And this character can do the same thing. And I thought that's pretty cool to me because that's gonna be fun. Because this is, I'm telling you what, with episode 1 and 2, these had some great lightsaber battles or duels, as they like to call them. And I know like Star Wars has this habit now where everything has to start slow, but I just want to say, even though episode 1 and 2 were kind of slow, they moved really slow, but the build up to the epic battle, it was so cool. I think they executed well on both episode 1 and 2, and they introduced a lot of new characters that people are not familiar with, which to me, that is a big risk for the Star Wars franchise, just because these audience, they probably don't really watch the Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels or any Star Wars cartoon series that is actually that's canon to the Star Wars cinematic universe. So I think this is a big risk, but I think with these 2 episodes, the way they did everything and execute, and they made the story so simple, they make you so it's very understandable. This is all about Thrawn and Ezra, 2 characters, 2 different teams, Jedis, Sith Lords, anti-Jedis, people who just want to make sure the world's better or the galaxy's better. They want to find these 2 people and make sure the right person, which is like Ezra, gets back, and they can make sure Thrawn is destroyed, killed, locked up, whatever they need to do to make the villains lose, basically. And honestly, that is the most simplest way to start it. So now, it might be so basic to do that, but I think it's good. It's perfect. Because now, episode 1 and episode 2 really executed the plot to make the viewers truly understand what they're getting into. Because already they're going to introduce so many other characters that they're not going to recognize. There will be characters that they may recognize, and I'm not saying that nobody will, but it's going to be a small percentage of it. But I think this has so much good potentials to be one of their better Star Wars series on the Disney Plus. I mean, I love them all to death. I like every one of them, but I favorite more to the Obi-Wan Kenobi, this one, Andor, and of course the Mandalorian. The Book of Boba Fett probably wouldn't be my top favorite, but I like Boba Fett. He's an important character, so I get that. And the last season, The Mandalorian wasn't my favorite. I like season 1. I like season 2 better than the last season. So that's how best way I can explain it. So really, again, this is such a good. These 2 episodes just indicate this is going to be such a great season, and this is a show I think deserves a season 2. I'll just say that now. But let's get into some topics. So here's some like 3, maybe 4 top points that people want to get. The New Republican, it's still corrupted. There's still old Imperial who are still loyal to the Empire. Like, they're not brainwashed. They're not working. They're just some are like spies who are trying to infiltrate this and run it and take over it. But there's some who just loved it. Like, this is like a real life thing, and I think this is what you get, because like, look at like Morgan from the Night Witch. She's an important character. I mean, we seen her in the I forget which seat. I know she was in The Mandalorian, or maybe Boba Fett, I forget. But she was that's what happens before she got captured. So she was already plotting to get Thrawn back. And what that means is, in the Star Wars universe, they don't believe in like witches. Like, it'd be like a myth. It'd be like a children's book. Something you would tell little kids in their brines. But, like, if it's a myth, it's true. And if it's true, it's a legend, right? It's one of those things. And so not a lot of people know her. She exists. So she's under the radar, and she's very powerful. And if she could find Thawne, then, people are in very trouble in the Star Wars cinematic universe. So that's why it's important. And so, like, that's why a lot of people are lost. And what I found very interesting with her, and I'm going to kind of tie this in with the new Republican topic, is I think that when Morgan was explaining that there are two galaxies, so there's a multiverse story coming, and there's a time travel story, and I think the new Republican has a not the big bad villain, but has the next villain to tease the next big villain for the next Star Wars film. In general, that's where I think they're going. I think like this would be like their Thanos, but who is it? Which Sith Lord is it? I mean, there are so many they can go with, and they're getting closer to the future of where the Star Wars movies are placed in the timeline with this series. So that's why I bring that up. I also I get the idea of that the way like this show started, you know how they'd have the Star Wars intro. You notice like in the other Star Wars intros, there's different colors like green, red, and blue. This was all red. Even like the when the words are crawling, it was crawling up. And so it's pretty much telling me that the reason why the new Republican stories in this series is because who you think is the good guy in the politics of this, and who everybody's like trying to be loyal to or working for, or who they're fighting for, is all corrupted, basically. And obviously, who you think is the good guy is probably the bad guy, the villain, basically. And on both sides, the Jedis, the anti-Jedis, and the Sith Lords, like, everybody's corrupted and had their own motive, basically. Because to me, this looks like the story of the whole Star Wars galaxy falling to pieces. That's why I think it's very important. Because look at like Balin the Skull. He's 500 years old, and they found that out by aging the lightsaber. And so he's one of the original like Jedis. Like, he started it all basically. And again, this is not started at all, but he's one of them. And he looks even concerned and confused to what's happening, but he knows that maybe there's only one way to get that to make the Empire have a comeback. Like, the Empire needs a comeback. They're making a comeback. They're returning, And I think that he doubts it and he fears it because it's going to get ugly. And he may not have the heart because he was once a Jedi, so he still has somewhat good and kindness in his heart. But there's also on the hero side, the good team, the good guys, there's also a little bit of frustration, giving up, and there's some of these characters who will probably be revealed later on that you can't beat them, join them type mode, like, situation. Because all the people they look up are gone or turned their backs on them and hid. Like, look at Luke Skywalker. he just dipped out and disappeared. And we know why he did it, because every time he trains somebody, they always fall to the dark side. And in timeline right now, Luke Skywalker's back on a deserted planet where he's just hiding out because he's slowly but surely giving up on the Jedi way, where he just don't want to be a Jedi, and he's just gonna live the rest of his lives old and just pass away quietly. And now here's a theory that I have about when Morgan was talking about two galaxies. Like, this map leads to two galaxies, not one but two. My theory is this: I think this is their way of Disney and Star Wars to reboot the whole franchise. Like, this is where you see new actors playing the fan favorite characters. Like, I'm not saying like everyone, but like from any character they see on Disney Plus, the Star Wars series on Disney Plus, those characters and those actors, I think they won't be replaced. They'll stay, and it'll be the same story. But we'll get a new actor to play Luke Skywalker. We'll get a new actor to play Anakin / Darth Vader and Obi-Wan and all that. I think that's what they're trying to do. And to say, because to say two galaxies, I think the galaxy that we're viewing now is going to get completely destroyed. And the second galaxy is where they start all over again from the beginning. And then obviously they'll just place the Disney Plus series in timeline where they need to be at, and it'll all make better sense. Because I think like with like having like the cartoon shows be canon to it, a lot of, like, to be honest, and this is honestly true, like most adults are not going to watch those cartoons. But if you did like Star Wars Rebels in a live action, or Star Wars Resistance or Clone Wars in a live action way, you'll get more viewers to watch it, because it's not cartoonish, but it's still like fun to watch, and CGI, VVX effects, of course, but and just live action basically. But I think that's what they're gonna do, in theory. Like, they probably won't do that. But to say there's two galaxies, I don't know what else they could do to make it make sense. But obviously, I'm not saying they're going to go this route. But to see that happen, I think that would make sense, and I think that'd be cool. I mean, why not? To keep continuing to make Star Wars series and just place them in between, before the prequel, during the prequel, all that, it's going to confuse so many people, because then we're going to want to watch those fan favorite characters retell their stories. So you might as well cast a whole new cast of actors to play them and just have fun with it. I think that'd be a fun route to go, and I think that'd be cool. But that's just a theory. I'm not saying that's going to happen, so please don't beat me up for that. But I think that'd be cool though. So, but other than that, that's just my one theory. But this show was so good. Episode 1 and 2, I'm definitely giving 1 and 2 both a 10. 1 out of 10, they're getting a 10. Because it was a great way to introduce and a way to start it off. And I cannot wait for episode 3 and all that. Like, it's going to be fun to watch. I can already tell this is going to be a good show. And I cannot wait to review more. I mean, this is really, I like it just because it's very Jedi. It's a Jedi story. And that's my favorite part of Star Wars. It's just the Jedis, the lightsabers, the dual battles. Yes, I love the characters that shoot, and I love the Mandalorians and the Mandos. I like all that. I like Andor. But Jedis are my favorite. The Sith Lords, the anti-Jedis, like, this is my favorite part of the Star Wars stories of this whole saga. So I'm extra excited for this series, and I'm going to keep watching this. I cannot wait to review episode 3. So I would say let's keep watching it. Enjoy this. Become a Star Wars fan if you have not. This will definitely help you become a Star Wars fan. So that's my review. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talking Entertainment official channel. Subscribe. Hit that notification button so you can always be updated with all my latest content. Thank you and peace out.